Liverpool fans are not going to like this, but their brilliance has forced us to have this conversation. They've just played in another League Cup semi-final while sitting top of the Premier League and top of the Champions League. They also have a very winnable FA Cup tie against Accrington Stanley waiting for them around the corner. Now look, of course we know that Liverpool lost the first leg against Tottenham, but nobody in their right mind actually believes that there is a world in which Tottenham can knock Liverpool out of the semi-final of the League Cup. I truly believe that Liverpool will make it to Wembley. I truly believe that Liverpool will lift the League Cup this season. Basically, for the first half of the season, Liverpool have been perfect, and therefore it is fair, right and just for us to ask this question. How many trophies will Liverpool win this year? When you have been as good as they have been, it is a totally legitimate question. How many trophies do you think they can win? And the second that you open that door, the inevitable Q word follows. We whisper it. Quadruple. Liverpool fans don't want to hear it. Liverpool Football Club have been scarred in their previous pursuits of the quadruple. But, personally speaking, of course, I can't see who can possibly stop them in any individual game. That's not to say that I expect them to win the quadruple. Frankly, I don't. It's superhuman. But I am pointing out that on a game-by-game basis, I never predict Liverpool to lose. I can never envisage a world where Liverpool do not get what they want out of a game of football because they have been so good. I've watched pretty much every game that they have played this season, and in virtually every game, they have got the job done. They have been perfect, or almost more impressively, they have got the job done, turning defeats into draws, draws into victories, and then fairly regularly blowing teams away. Firstly, I think it's important for us to acknowledge how we got here. How are we having a conversation around a quadruple? And that is because Liverpool have been perfect. I'm not setting an agenda here. I'm not doing anything. I've witnessed Liverpool all season. I have witnessed their brilliance. And now I am reflecting on and analysing their brilliance. So let's acknowledge quite how good Liverpool have been. Let's discuss quite how dazzling Mohamed Salah is. And then let's process quite how perfect Arne Slot has been. Because as soon as you do that, I feel like you will have to concede that it is fair to broach the subject of the quadruple. Now, before we go any further, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt this video, but I need to ask you a favour. If you're enjoying this video, will you please give it a like and please do click the subscribe button. I would love to welcome you into this community. Thank you so much. But back to the talk of the quadruple. Many of Arne Slot's players have been here before. Many Liverpool fans will know quite how rigorous the pursuit of the quadruple can be. They will also know quite how damaging the pursuit of the quadruple can be. Fighting a war on four fronts, it takes its toll. I think it would have been correct for Liverpool to drop out of the League Cup early. They didn't need it, they've got a proud record in it, it doesn't really change anything for Liverpool. Fixture congestion is a thing, and ultimately Liverpool will not be defined by whether they win the League Cup or not. However, the fact that they breezed into the semi-finals means that they have to go for the jugular of this competition. And Arne Slot has spoken admirably about quite how highly he values this trophy. We saw from his team selection against Tottenham that he really does mean business in this trophy now. Yes, he's rested players on the route to the semi, but once you get to a semi, you're desperate to win it. And more impressively, in the same interview, Arne Slot doesn't seem to be fazed at the prospect of competing on four fronts. We know that Liverpool have been burned in the past. In 2022, they won the league and the FA Cup double, the domestic cup double, which under normal circumstances would be a historic and brilliant season. But for Liverpool, it would have felt a touch underwhelming because they got beat in the Champions League final in Paris by Real Madrid and they lost the league by a single point. 1 point in the league table cost them the title, and one lapse of concentration cost them the Champions League. So close and yet so far. A Rizla paper away from history. And then again last season. In fact, at this point of last season, Liverpool were drastically on course for the potential quadruple. They beat us in a League Cup final in terrible circumstances, embarrassing circumstances, Virgil van Dijk scoring the winner. Liverpool fans erupted with joy. And that day at Wembley, I think you could feel that there was genuine belief that more silverware was going to arrive. It didn't. But last year was a very particular case. Jurgen Klopp announced his retirement, for example. And both last season and 2022 had something in common. That common denominator was Manchester City. Both times where Liverpool flirted with the idea of winning a quadruple, Manchester City have been at their brilliant best, relentless in their pursuit of the Premier League title. Manchester City would not relinquish their grasp on the Premier League title easily, and therefore they pushed Liverpool every single step of the way. This year is different. Manchester City are not the force that they once were. I think you could arguably discount Manchester City from the title race altogether. And therefore, if Man City aren't going to win the league, who is? Arsenal don't have the minerals. Chelsea are too juvenile and inexperienced. Manchester City's race is run, and therefore, Liverpool, in my opinion at least, already have a minimum of one hand and four fingers on the league title. They sit at the top of the Premier League with a 6-point cushion and a game in hand. In the previous campaigns when they were going for 4 trophies, they had to be virtually perfect in the Premier League. They had to be 100 miles an hour. They had to play Jurgen Klopp's heavy metal football relentlessly week in, week out. This season is different. Not only are Manchester City not a force, not only do Liverpool have a cushion, not only is there not really a genuine contender and challenger to Liverpool's pursuit of the title, but they're doing it the Arne Slot way. They're doing it more calmly. They're doing it in a more measured approach. The pursuit is not as relentless. It's more controlled. It's less chaotic. It's equally brilliant, similarly ruthless, where Jurgen Klopp's team had to operate at 100 miles an hour to play that blitzkrieg football and be as cutting. Slot's team does it easier. It's Klopp's chaos with an element of Dutch control, which is easier for the players. There is also another massive difference between this year and last. The difference is the African Cup of Nations. This time last year, the best player in the world, Mohamed Salah, had to go off on Egypt duty to represent his country at the African Cup of Nations. He didn't play either leg of last year's League Cup semi-final, and he returned back to the Premier League with a hamstring injury and never really found the form that he demonstrated at the beginning of the season. He was still effective, he was still scoring goals because that's what he does. But Mohamed Salah probably had his worst period in a Liverpool shirt the back end of last season off the back of the injury sustained at AFCON. So that won't be an issue for them this year. Also, the young squad that was largely assembled last season are now a year older, a year wiser and a year more experienced. In the first half of last year, Liverpool were excellent. And if you think about the players that made them excellent, who are you thinking of really? Salah, Van Dijk, Alisson, McAllister, and well supported by Endo. I think he deserves a mention. This year it's so much greater. It's a lot of the players that I just mentioned, plus Gakpo, operating at a different level, a completely different class to the player that he was last year. Luis Diaz, quietly going about becoming one of the best players in the world. I guarantee you this, if we weren't focusing on the brilliance of Mohamed Salah week in, week out, we would be talking about the player that Luis Diaz has become. Excellent, exciting, hungry, tenacious, and willing to do a job for a team. Brilliant on the wing, brilliant as a number 9, and brings out the best both in himself and others around him. Ryan Gravenberch is the unsung hero, a truly excellent footballer and a testament to the manager that Arne Slot is. Ryan Gravenberch and Arne Slot deserve so much credit between them. Quite simply, that development has been mesmerising, stunning, and it's undoubted now that Ryan Gravenberch is one of the best midfielders in the league. I think it's also fair to say that Szoboszlai, Curtis Jones, Connor Bradley are all drastically contributing this season. The fact that they didn't really make any signings may suggest that they could run out of steam in the way that they did last year, but I feel like the machine is so much bigger this year, as demonstrated by the volume of players that I just mentioned. This time last year, Liverpool were 2 points clear at the top of the league, but they were the least favoured out of the 3 teams competing for the title to ultimately end up successful. This year is just so different. And the efficiency within which they win games now changes the whole debate altogether. Previously, we had to ask questions about Liverpool's stamina. We had to question both their mental and their physical well-being, constantly, emotionally winning games of football. There was a period last year where it felt like they were winning the game in the last minute, week in, week out. As impressive as it is, and on some level inspiring, it's also so draining. Slot's Liverpool just doesn't feel so emotional. And then, quite simply, we look at the results and the performances. Liverpool are majestic. They're so good and so comfortable in the Premier League that people are positioning credible draws as an opportunity to flag a chink in the armour. Just so everyone knows, a 3-3 draw away from home at St James's Park in a tiresome week isn't indicatory of a decline. And just so everyone knows, a 2-2 draw at home to a resurgent Manchester United team isn't the beginning of a problem. Let's use that Newcastle draw as a case study, shall we? Liverpool draw 3-3 away at Newcastle, and suddenly the door to the title is open. The title race is blown wide open. Liverpool are showing a vulnerability. It was utter drivel, total nonsense, ridiculous from anyone who uttered those words. It was an excellent point. In a week where Liverpool had played Manchester City, Real Madrid, and felt like they had Everton lying in wait, they went away to St James's Park and they got a credible 3-3 draw. A good point away from home in a tough ground under the floodlights against a very good Eddie Howe-inspired team. And I think this is how you know that they're so good. They draw with Manchester United and everybody suggests there's a weakness in their team. No, you idiots! Drawing with Manchester United in those circumstances demonstrates quite how brilliant Liverpool are, not how vulnerable. But United were excellent. The best that they have played since they beat Man City in the Cup. Liverpool were off it, atrocious, playing with 10 men at times it felt like. It was Manchester United's best performance of the season, it was Liverpool's worst performance of the season, and the game ended on parity. Most teams in their worst performance of the season get beat 5-0. Liverpool still take a point against Manchester United. So now let's process all that information and put it into an equation and discuss the quadruple. My take on it? The quadruple has never been done before, and the reason it hasn't been done before is because it is impossible. You cannot win 4 trophies in a season, surely. But I used to think that about the treble, and this Liverpool team have shocked me. Time and time again. Mohamed Salah being better than he has ever been. Arne Slot having the Midas touch and getting everything right. Luis Diaz rapidly becoming one of the most efficient footballers in world football. Ryan Gravenberch elevating his level beyond anything that I could have possibly dreamed he could be. And quite frankly, I'm not writing this Liverpool team off. Because on an individual basis, can they win the treble? Of course not. It's impossible. But realistically, to stop them winning the treble, someone is going to have to stop them. And who is going to do that? Realistically, who knocks them out of the FA Cup? Realistically, who's better than them in Europe to stop them winning the Champions League? Barring a catastrophe, I feel like they have already won the Premier League. And they're undoubtedly the best team left in the League Cup. So yes, the concept of winning a quadruple in an existential way feels impossible. But then put your cards on the table. Who's going to stop them? Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a like. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you really enjoyed it, do me the honour of clicking subscribe. It really does help me out, and I would love to welcome you into this community. Thank you so much.